secret files of Teletraan 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the files of Teletraan 2, and it is time to go into the world of beards. Beards. Beards.
Bees.
Beards. We're going into the Mirrorverse. We're talking Star Trek today. Or we're talking idea ripped off of Star Trek.
I was going to say, wait, I didn't read that comic.
It is time for Transformers Shattered Glass, which is a book, which is essentially like so how it's being released is an issue is coming out with the toys when they're released, and then 3 or 4 months later it is being released via IDW to the mainstream. The issues are individual issues. They are structured rather like spotlights, but there is an overarching story. First issue is came with the Shattered Glass Blurr toy, which looks much better than the regular Blurr toy.
Mm-hmm.
When I see them both together, I was kind of shocked.
Still got the bad arm thing, but it is generally way more characterful facial design, which is depressing to say.
But yeah, so we are going to talk about Shattered Glass issue 1.
Wait, me and you are?
Yeah, it's a Transformers comic, Andy, on
my God.
Transformers podcast.
I don't believe that.
Like, it's true. We talked about Beast Wars not 1 month ago.
Oh my God.
And I'm getting you to talk about King Grimlock at some point.
Why are you getting me? Do you think I'm violently against it or something?
I think you're violently against anything that I enjoy because you think it's probably evil.
Well, no. I just think it's funny because it's more amusing to imagine that anything you like is terrible or is going to die. How's that comic series, Mikey? Oh, it got cancelled.
Listen, I would laugh, but like Immortal Hulk is wrapping up, and now there's drama about the creators never wanting to work together because of stuff the artist was slipping into the book, and I'm just like, thank God it ended when it did, or else it would have ended early.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, there's always something. But anyway, we're gonna do these issues, and yeah, so we're gonna see where they play out. First up, we have Shattered Glass issue 1. Also, since I should mention it, if you're on Patreon, stick around because it's Andy's turn, and we're talking about a new book, Annihilation Conquest, the sequel to Annihilation, which was a very good book. And this book, I'll just spoil my opinion now. Made a name makes so much more sense to me.
Okay, all right.
Which we'll cover in Patreon. If you want to know what I mean, people, listen to Patreon. But anyway, I'm rambling. So issue 1, Shattered Glass, written by Danny Lore. He is a new writer to Transformers. I'm not familiar with anything else he's done.
No.
I'm sorry. Anything else she's done?
Oh, either way, doesn't matter.
So,
it's
sorry,
I haven't heard of them at all.
They spelled it with a D and N-Y. Actually, no, I tell a lie. They've done, because they do not identify as male or female, and that I'm getting lost in. I've had a lot of coffee today. I may be a wee bit overhyped.
Okay, yeah. You've been building a kitchen too, so again, super hype.
Yes. So my brain is like full of kitchens. So anyway, Danny is new to Transformers, but I'll just have a quick look at what they've written. They've written Ironheart Champions, Iron Man 2020, which had a Wolverine in it. They wrote some of King in Black, Wonder Woman, James Bond 2019.
James Bond Jr.
I wish.
Oh.
He learned the game from his Uncle James. Marvel Voices, which I never heard about, and DC Cultural Anthologies, which I know got released, which I did mean to read because it's got Cassandra Cain on the cover, and I love Cassandra Cain. But yeah, so and she's writing a new Vixen book, which is called
okay.
Justice. Or they're writing. I'm getting confused. They're writing a new Vixen book. So anyway, this is their first bit of work for Transformers. Art is by a very old name, Monsieur Le Guido Guidi. Inks by John Wyco, colors by JPB, John Paul Beauvais, and Ed Peary. Hey, Ed. What you doing here?
Coloring, apparently.
Yeah, Ed's starting to make his appearance on the official circuit in the last couple of years, so well done him. For anyone who doesn't know, Ed Peary is a longtime alumni of TF Nation and Auto Assembly. Letters by Letter Squid.
A what now?
Letters by Letter Squids.
Okay. Are these squids that use letters?
They have you know what? I'm checking. Lettersquids.com.
Okay.
About Justin, Letters Squids. Letterer and designer working out of Connecticut.
All right. Well, there you go. Nice.
I suppose you couldn't just put down Justin because that might get a bit confusing. And edited by David Mariotti and Riley Farmer. So, basic story is a post-war Cybertron in the Shattered Glass universe, or a Shattered Glass universe. The Autobots won, the Decepticons are on the run. The Autobots have been divided up into 3 factions. Akane is leading her own group in the Pax faction. I know it will only ever be referred to as Akane. Prowl and Goldbug have also set themselves up individually. And basically, in the middle of it all is the average Autobot who is just trying to get from day to day, making other people's life a bit miserable. And in the middle of all these, there are the body scrappers, the bounty hunters who go out, hunt down Decepticons, bring them back for bounties and spare parts and whatnot. And Blurr is one of them, and he is not enjoying his job at the moment because he is an adrenaline junkie. And in his opinion, most, if not all, the big bounties have already been taken, and all that's really left is scraps. And considering we're introduced to him dragging in Six Shot's corpse, like, I'm assuming Shattered Glass Six Shot is not as big a deal as you might think.
Yeah, I imagine he's a bit on the weak side.
Yeah. Anyway, he comes in, meets with, what would you call him?
Ratchet.
No, like, what's the role he do? I know it's Ratchet. I've got the toys. But, like, there's the guy who holds all the bounties. There's an actual term for that.
Yeah. I can't think of the name either.
Yeah, so anyway, Ratchet is currently experimenting on a bunch of guys, and Blurr is completely bored out of his mind and completely wound at the same time, and he's just like, he has to tell someone how it went down. Because otherwise, this is just, he doesn't get anything out of this. Eventually, like, he finds out that Goldbug is putting around a big bounty, and it's going to be someone important. He takes the data chip off of Blurr. They head out, and it turns out the one they're after is Megatron's most trusted lieutenant and the voice of the Decepticon rebellion, Starscream. The most boring paint scheme ever seen by man.
It's true.
It's so dull. Anyway, Starscream is meanwhile on the run from Hardhead and Chrome Dome, who managed to take him down. And then we get a little taste of what's defining this guy is that he's apparently very vain and a wee bit on the cocky side.
Which isn't that unlike his normal version?
Yeah, it's a bit more in sort of like the Trax Skyfire vein than the standard Starscream vein, I'd say.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah,
but it's not that kind of direct opposite character that you might suspect.
And he also has very big shanks.
They do. They had to give him something to make the paint up for the paint scheme, I suppose.
Blurr is watching, and it turns out Starscream is very, very skilled, but he's up against 2 high-class bounty hunters, and eventually he's going to go down, in his opinion. And Blurr decides to help out, and it turns into a 2-on-1. And there's a nice bit where Starscream goes like, "You're back to back with the wrong Cybertronian." Anyway, the 2 of them team up. They manage to take down the bounty hunters, and Blurr is basically doing this because he's bored. He's managed to steal the bounty, but he wants to take Starscream somewhere he can't escape, and he also just wants to, like, drag out the experience as long as he can. So he tries to convince Starscream that he's an Autobot because he had to be. There's no such thing as neutral anymore. Like, oh, I'm not evil, I'm not a bad guy, I'm just like, I had to pick a side. And he takes him out to some place called the Static Zone, where There's what's the static? What was the static zone again?
Lots of volcanoes, lots
Yes,
of
yes.
rain, and apparently a dead Metro Titan who's just chilling out.
Yeah. Like my dreams for that toy.
Yay! Pretty much.
Anyway, Starscream doesn't seem to be buying it, but at this point we get the backstory of the current world over a quite nice page. Blurr is still trying to talk Starscream into a position where he can outwit him. It's not quite going as well as he thinks, but he thinks he's almost got him on hook. He gives a bit more of his sob story. We see a bit of a backstory, which I actually think is probably relatively honest. It's just, he's leaving out some parts. We see Akane. We see Blurr. Starscream basically lays out his things of like he finds it all very ridiculous and patronizing. And I do like the line, "I'm a Decepticon because I saw through the lies of your Autobot masters." I'm liking the tone for Starscream. Blurr thinks he's about to lose it. He tries to basically distract Starscream with his speed. He seems to kind of convince Screamer they're on the same side, but as they pull away to the chrome ridge of the volcanoes that separate Akane from Goldbug's town, Blurr gets shot in the back because Starscream didn't believe a word of it. It turns into a firefight. Starscream's managing to hold his own, but he's clearly slower. Blurr thinks he's got him as the volcanoes are erupting around him, and then Blurr makes a sudden dash, and Starscream goes left. And Blurr charges right into lava. And basically, according to Starscream, I didn't need to be faster than you, I just needed to be smarter. And as we watch Blurr rather violently get covered in lava, screaming, "Not like this, not like this, no, not like this." And then we cut to a day later where presumably Blurr's horrifically melted corpse is now covered with cooled volcanic rock, and Starscream basically sat there to make sure he was dead.
Yeah, he was Wolverined, if you remember when they, in quotations, killed Wolverine.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't stick, but,
And yeah, we have set up for the next issue because Blurr got him one step closer to Megatron.
Magmatron.
Oh,
that would have been cooler.
That would have been better.
And then we would have been like, oh shit, a new Magmatron toy is coming.
Shatter Glass Magmatron.
Yeah, well.
You didn't really pay it into regular Magmatron.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and we get a preview for next month, which is Megatron in the rain. Touching a Decepticon symbol. And yeah, Andy. New universe, new things, initial impressions.
I think the universe still is just like, oh yeah, it's just what if but reversed, but what if purple? It's not like an amazing concept of an idea, but I think the issue handles the concept well by focusing in on a very small cast. So you're actually able to develop them, and it doesn't just bombard you with, well, here's this character, and here's this character, and here's this character, and here's this character. It focuses on Starscream and Blurr, and then Ratchet as well. And that's really your cast. You've got 3 cast, which you can actually do something with, and you don't need to worry about the extra fluff I've explained too much. And you're able to give enough exposition to give a brief understanding of how the universe works without bogging it down again too much. It's a nice, simple story. It doesn't do anything too crazy, and I think it executes it pretty successfully. It's not like it didn't blow my mind or anything nutty like that from a storytelling aspect, but I read it and was like, pacing was all right, action was all right, the conclusion was all right, the character development was okay. This not a bad comic.
Yeah, when I said it was like the old Spotlights, I think it kind of hits that level of writing.
Okay.
Like, which is kind of odd because, like, when I looked through, I went over Danny Lore, was it? Danny Lore, yeah, Danny Lore's work, and they largely kind of write what I'd call teen to youth targeted books.
Okay.
Which, you wouldn't expect that kind of writer to then translate over into writing a pretty Furman-esque book. Like, I would say it's better than some of Furman's writing, if I'm honest, but.
Well, you have issue with Furman to begin with.
Yes, because he needs to put down the thesaurus. But it's it's interesting to me. Like, I wasn't expecting that kind of writing style at all when I went in, and I think what I like about this is that it's not focused on what if Blurr but evil.
Yeah. There's
Like
more to him than just that, which is nice.
He has his own quirks, his own personalities. It's just like the only real thing to link him to Blurr is that he's impatient because he's got super speed.
Yeah.
Starscream, on the other hand, I like the take on him. Like, what if we had the negative aspects of Starscream in a better person?
Yeah, it's kind of like what was IDW Starscream's thing called with Windblade that we liked, that comic series?
Windblade?
Tillola
Tilala
1.
One. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like if Tillola 1 Starscream wasn't an asshole.
Yeah.
I like to imagine he's like the J-pop or the K-pop Starscream, so all the Cybertronian girls would be swooning over him as well.
Yeah.
Oh, Starscream Kun, you're so pretty. He's like, I know. Bitch, I know. You don't need to tell me. I know I'm hot.
I will say, I don't think it's very brave.
No, it's very basic, I suppose. That's why I said, like, I'm not amazed by the story. But Mikey, I'll fucking take this, or no offense, but over Brian Ruckley. You know?
I keep saying, oh, I'm about to start the Ruckley reread, and I honestly, I open issue 1, and I don't read it. I just look at it, and then I go
come
off
down your cheek, and you're like,
and
no.
then I go off and read something else.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not even like you want to do a read of the new issue. You want to go back from issue 1 of the Ruckley run.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, that's because like I don't remember it, and like I've always said this: if I don't remember details of a story, that's very bad because
it is.
I remember everything.
Mikey is a repository of information.
Yeah, I shouldn't be. I don't want to be.
It's your burden to bear, Mikey. It's your giddy.
Yeah. But this, like, I would, like, I said this about What If, and I said, like, wouldn't it be great if instead of doing the first Avenger but with Captain Carter, what if they did Captain Carter ends the war, what next? Or aliens invade or something weird.
Like, or the super soldier process doesn't go well and she becomes the Red Skull.
Yeah.
Something weird. Or Baron Zemo.
I heard I haven't seen the next ones. I heard at least one of the other ones goes a bit wilder in terms of their concept. But
which one? The newest one?
I think it's the Black Widow one.
Oh, that one's actually quite interesting too. It's not like amazing, but it's got an interesting idea. It's got a better premise, I would say, than the other ones did.
I don't remember. I just, from what I was reading a week or so ago, it was just like, that sounds more like what I'd like the whole series to be.
Yes, agreed. Yeah.
I might check it out. I might not, but like I've you can watch your Guardians with Black Panther some other day. But I think the strength of this story is that it's very competent in the traditional formula, and it doesn't fall into the Mirrorverse traps. It doesn't fall into the traps of what if your favorite but evil.
Yeah, which it could easily have done. We've seen it done many times beforehand.
Yes, like Shattered Glass.
Yeah.
Remember? Yeah.
Look like no. If you were gonna ask, do you remember the comic from the what was it, TCG? Then no.
I do.
I don't, thankfully, but
it was very strict. But that weird thing where it just like sideswipes a good guy in this. It was just like, oh, I think Sideswipe was a good guy before. But like, one thing I really wish this had was actually it's only small, movies, yes, but it's only small, but I would like just no continuity in these issues.
I can see why they did it, though. It's not a bad way to set something up, and maybe it's like a hook to get you to buy more of the toys, but maybe I can see why you would say that as well. Yeah. I suppose it does stand alone. It's just got minor continuity.
Yeah, that's definitely. But I'm just thinking like Devastation, like what's the Devastation? No, Revelation, the last one where the last 4 spotlights got hijacked.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like, that was rough.
I want these to be spotlight issues. I don't want these to actually secretly be like, and the last 3 issues are really about Megatron doing something, even though they're called Jetfire.
the main indicator will be how issue 2 ends.
Mm.
Because obviously, I don't think issue 2 is going to be Starscream finds Megatron. If he does, maybe it'll be at the end of the comic, but it will obviously be focused on Megatron and whoever he's finding and building out the world more. If they just keep on doing that and maybe have like real small continuity links to link towards the idea of something coming together for a future comic series, that's fine. Like if Starscream never meets Megatron in the toy comics, okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
I can see where you're coming from there.
The thing is, like, if this goes well, obviously it's a gateway to a new series, and maybe the wise thing is to do, like, at the end of these 5 issues, you set up Starscream and Megatron are about to meet, and our plan can now be put into play.
Or the last page they meet, that's the last page where I finally found you, Megatron, or something like that, and then the comic can pick up from there. I could go.
They do the Terminator hand. They do the Predator handshake. You son of a bitch. So yeah. So I'm happy enough with the story, surprisingly so, in all honesty.
Yeah, I was shocked as well.
Like I mentioned, like I meant to say to you, we could do something else if you hated this.
Yeah, you sent that to me, and I was like, does Mikey hate this? Am I insane?
No. You're just like, oh, I just don't trust anything anymore, Andy.
That's fair. Did you think I'd not like this?
I at the moment, I genuinely think like, oh, it'll be me being too positive about something, and Andy will see if.
No, I think it's fairly solid. I think one of the bigger downsides is the artwork, surprisingly, which I was quite. It's not. Don't get me wrong, it's not terrible artwork, but there's what I'd call, in terms of the line art, hiccups along the way, and I don't think the coloring works 100% for this style.
Yeah.
I think the coloring highlights a little bit of the hiccups in the line artwork, and I think if you gave it the what was the comic, Mikey, where it was set before the Marvel comics? We did it on the show. What was that called?
84.
84. I think if it was colored like that, it would be a little harder to. I think it was probably the case for 84 as well. I think it might have been a little bit harder to catch like hiccups in the line art because it's not consistent. But every now and again, if you look at a face, the face is slightly off.
Yeah,
or there's a little less detail here and there. There's one specific thing. If you look at 6 Shot Severed Head in page 1, it changes one more time when he's like giving the head to Ratchet, and then it changes back to the other design when it's lying on the table.
I see.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
It's a weird. Oh, Dead 6 Shot has sad eyes.
I know.
But I will say I don't think that colorists clash with each other, which is nice.
No. I think you can kind like if you're looking for it, you can kind of see it, but it's not for me and for you who are not colorists. It doesn't like slap me in the face saying they're distinctly different. Yeah. Where sometimes we've had previous issues where wow, they're not even close to being the same colorist or the same artist.
Yeah, in terms of the art, I will agree. Like, especially faces. Faces are something that book has problems with. When it's a good close-up, perfect. Like, classic Guido.
Yes, 100%.
But when it's the greater the distance, the worse it gets. Page 2, when Blurr is coming in to see Ratchet. Whose face is that? Whose face is that on Blurr?
Hang on, let me go.
Because it ain't Blurr's.
Oh yeah, that's not a good one. 2, 3. I'll tell you a page I like. I think it's page 4 where it starts off with whoa, I didn't say that, Doc. I think that's a good page where you start off with an extreme close up on Blurr. Back that the whole like him zooming, him activating the Speed Force. That's a really good page, and the shot of Starscream. That's probably the best drawn Starscream looks in the comic, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree. And Starscream really has this thing where, like, from a distance, I think it's trying to make him look like he's smirking, but it's just like his face is off center. Yeah,
it looks a bit weird.
And
I could complain about the coloring for Starscream, but that's Hasbro's problem.
Yeah. Apparently, the like Chrome Dome and Quake aren't supposed to be based on anyone. Like JPB. I was going to say JPB said they were original, but I'm very much seeing Hardhead and
Cancer.
And I was going to say Cancer, yeah, or Squeeze Play,
Yeah.
whichever. I couldn't remember his English name.
Either way, yeah.
But I will, the man has no reason to lie. Maybe he just liked the color schemes, but
They seem a little bit haphazard. Like it's just
Mm.
some colors thrown on these guys for. I don't think any good reason. I think something better could have been chosen for them. There's a shot of the entire Autobot headmaster team, and you got Brainstorm. You got Highbrow, who's got lilac and like a aquamarine blue and
like mind wipey, maybe.
no, not that kind of like lime. Sorry, that kind of pink. It's I don't think they look like a good like when you put the four next to each other, they don't have a solid look to them like the Decepticon headmasters do, or the Autobot equivalent headmasters do. Like I said, this is why it kind of feels a little bit thrown together in some ways, and I don't like the color they went for Zarak either. Would he's just black silver with orange? Sorry, with yellow arms. I think it's meant to be Zarak. I think
no, it's Reflector.
Is it Reflector? Okay.
Yes, look at the chest. Something I don't like in that page is that all the emblems are a mix of hand drawn and
Oh
inserted.
my god! Yeah, I hadn't even noticed that.
Look at Reflector's arm.
Yeah. Reflector's arm's very obvious, and then there's
Fort Max
Portrait
has
Max.
Fort Max has a hand drawn one, and that's not exactly up to what I'd call the Milne hand drawn standard.
No, especially when you put them next to each other, and they're about the same size. The Decepticon insignia and that Autobot insignia. It's like, oh boy,
and
no, I hadn't even noticed that.
Yeah, and I will say, like in some of these shots, clearly trying to emulate the Morden meets the Eye style on how to when they're hand drawn.
Yeah, I just scrolled down to the Starscream insignia on that same page, and it's like, oh no, oh.
It's a weird. I always find it really distracting when it's really obvious that the symbols are just added after.
It almost feels like this issue feels like the line art was like the close-ups and the medium the close-ups and the extreme close-ups were done first, and more effort was put into them, and the more like medium shots to long range kind of shots, or the far away shots were done like last minute. The proportions on Starscream fighting Blurr with the volcanoes going off in the background, Starscream looks a bit like a mess. You can kind of get the idea of his silhouette, but his little tiny arms and the swords are massive, and he's got a teeny tiny head. It's weird.
I think the action flow is good.
The actual move of the combat, I would agree, is all right.
Like the one where Starscream and Blurr are both transforming as the fight's about to begin, I think that's really well laid out. I think it's really easy to tell what's going on in that, and I think it's kind of nice to start like Blurr coming in from the right, and then have Starscream start in the middle, and like he's flipping up into position.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a weird. Like I'm much more critical than I would normally be of Guido's work.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I say, maybe it's a bit harsh to say I expected a little bit more from Guido, but that's the feeling I got. But like you said, I wasn't confused by what was going on and the flow of the frames and everything like that, which we have had issues with some of the more recent Transformer comics. So, again, I think this all boils down to the comic being okay, which is kind of how it started. This comic's okay. It's not amazing. The artwork's not amazing. It has moments where it's nice. It has moments where it's bad. The story is not doing anything crazy, but it's... it's. I was going to say effective. It does what it intended to do. And it does it competently, just not amazingly or like in a unique, fancy way.
I'd agree with that. So I'm pretty much out of things to say in it. Do you have anything else to add?
I don't think there's really much else to say because it is, again, quite short. Oh, what did you think of the thought bubble boxes? Because I'm not sure. Like, this is again real basic bitch petty, I suppose. I didn't like the thought bubble text.
Yeah,
they were a bit they seemed a bit egregious.
Like I think the best way, like thought bubble text in a spotlight, obviously something that important. Is part of it.
Yeah.
And I read The Flash, and like Wally West just is thought bubbles given form.
Sure.
But some of them, there's too much talking.
They're very big as well. Or they feel very big.
They're too much talking. They're very big. I don't like the font, and I don't like the color.
Yeah.
And like when you've got that on a panel with like a big action scene going on, or like when they're driving across the landscape and all the volcanoes are erupting, like they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 panels, each one having at least one thought bubble, one with two.
It's true.
And
they're quite big again, like you
yeah,
say.
and it's taking up so much of the space. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a great bit of art in there, so maybe it's to kind of help. I don't know, but I don't need the way I would say, like, I get why Blur is having a running narrative,
Sure.
but it is distracting. Because one of the problems with the running narrative is that it becomes as you're going along, it becomes increasingly obvious that Starscream just does not buy your bullshit. But like at the same time, Blur's really becoming convinced he's wearing him down.
I don't think that's entirely a bad idea.
It's just it doesn't make your protagonist look, because he is your protagonist.
Yes.
It doesn't make your protagonist, who is supposed to be the best at his job, look like the best at his job. Now, if you wanted to make it seem like Blur thinks he's something high and mighty, and it, really he isn't, that's one thing. But him being like the best of the best is like you're introduced to him as that.
Yeah, maybe if it could have been shown somewhere that he wasn't as good as he said he was before that could have been something to like, oh, he thinks he's really good, but he's actually just getting by on his speed, and that's about it.
Yeah, he brings in Six Shot just like he dodged at the right moment, and then that gets mirrored with Starscream dodging at the right moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, Andy, what's your rating?
I think maybe a 6. Like I'd put it slightly above average because I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it more than but it still had a lot of issues to it. But it wasn't a terrible read. Enjoyable enough, but with issues. So yeah, a 6.
Yeah, I was actually going to go with a 6 as well.
Oh wow, we've been hitting it right on the same mark for the past few times we've been doing this. Damn.
I think I like the overall structure. I like the writing. Yeah. I think there's narrative mistakes. I think there's art mistakes. And I don't think it's really pushing the boat in any way, shape, or form.
It'll be interesting to see what the writer does when are they doing the next issue? Do you know, or do we know?
Don't know. I can find out.
Okay. Hopefully, because it'd be interesting to see what they can do with a bit more of a bit more of an interesting concept, a bit more of a story pushy concept. That'll be the real test, I suppose.
Mathematician, yeah. Looks like Danny is writing. Are they doing everything?
One would hope.
Yeah, they are doing each issue, so this is their miniseries.
I guess we'll be able to see then how their storytelling goes. If it's like if the next story is really kind of simple and basic as well, that'll be a bit of a shame. Hopefully, it'll be a little bit of a step up in terms of what they want to do and what they can do. I wonder what kind of mandates are put on them, because obviously it's a toy comic bundle, so it might have a bit more restrictions than a normal release, or not at all. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works.
That's something I'm very interested in, because obviously they didn't get to pick the characters they included. They had to pick these 5. They had to do Blur, Starscream, Megatron, Goldbug, and Jetfire.
Yeah, and we can't have really any other noticeable background characters either, apart from the Metro Titan. That's probably our only other character who you notice, and Six Shot. Those are the only 2. The rest of them are just jobbers.
Maybe just because the toy came out, Akane will show up.
I would imagine so, yes.
Yeah,
I think that's fair to say, yeah. Because Ratchet did, so she will.
One thing I do have to say, I do find the order rather interesting, because it goes Blur, Megatron, Starscream, Goldbug, Jetfire.
No, okay.
You would obviously... I mean, I thought this when it was issue 2. Obviously, the one to expect for issue 5 would be Megatron for your culmination.
You'd think so. I suppose that's not how the toys were released, though. So
no, but that's the interesting thing to me,
Yeah.
I'm just.
It would have been really. Can you imagine if they released issue 5 and you had to wait to like, whenever Jetfire came out for like maybe issue 3 or something?
Don't read this. Don't read this.
Came with the toy, but don't read it. You ruin the story.
Apparently, everyone getting one at the moment is finding them all like completely squished and packaged. So.
Oh, the comics.
Yeah, because apparently Pulse is being real bad for delivery.
Oh, I did see one person on I don't know whose fault it was, whether it was Pulse or just the Amazon delivery service. They bought the Transmutate, and the box had been left out in the rain.
Oh my
And
god.
the box had just like soaked through, and they were like, I managed to save Transmutate, but I looked at the the Generations box that it was a soggy outer packaging box, and I'm sure the packaging on the inside was a little bit on the damp side as well. I was like, oh my god, clearly just left on the porch in the rain. Like, oh Jesus.
Move.
Yeah. There you go, man.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Danny, keep up the good work and
Yes.
build up on it, and let's see where you can go.
Yeah.
Right. So that is the free show over. It's a quick one this time because we've only had the one issue. If you want to keep up with us, guys, and listen to our extended edition, today it's going to be Annihilation Conquest. You can sign up to our Patreon for $2 a month. If you want to send us any feedback, you can send it over on the moonbase2@gmail.com or on Twitter, moonbase2, or on Facebook or Libsyn or Patreon or Weebly or wherever. If you want to contact me directly, it's Irish Paleo on Twitter. Andy, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter as CCTFW. You can find me on YouTube as Cobra Commander TFW, and you can find me on Twitch as CCTFW as well. I think that's it.
The voice is going.
Yay!
In that case, guys, if you're sticking around for Patreon, please do. If not, thank you as always for listening, and we will talk to you again next time. Bye.
Bye.